Basic type layout video number 2. So I'm going to start with a couple things here. This is British spelling here. Now, InDesign does have a dictionary, and if you should always, and I mean always check your spelling. So we can go ahead and right now you'll see that we've got dynamic spelling on, so it's pointing out what it thinks is misspelled. You don't want really autocorrect on. We can check the spelling if we want to. You can also pick the user dictionary. So you'll see that I have English dictionary here. There's several dictionaries that you can choose from. And I believe those are in the preferences right here. Okay, so you go down here and you could check the dictionary that you're using. So that's why it's pointing out that color is misspelled. We could go ahead and spell check this, but I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it now. I just wanted to point that out, that there is a spell check if you need it. Okay, couple things. The next thing that we have to think about is paragraph indication. Now, what's happening here is we have, these are two returns. This is not real paragraph indication. So what we're going to do is we are going to take those away. I'm going to put my cursor here. I'm going to click delete. And you can see that right here, there's a return which indicates that this is the next paragraph. Okay. I'm going to grab the hand, move it down a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to go through here and I'm going to take these away because this is incorrect. We don't do paragraph indication with two returns. And the reason we don't do that is it creates too big of a space between the paragraphs. So now that we've taken that away, we can add proper paragraph indication. So I'm going to put my cursor here and I'm going to do Command A again. And then I'm going to come up here, and up here in the upper left-hand corner is an A, and that's character formatting. And if I go down here to this little button that has a paragraph symbol on it, that's paragraph formatting. So I'm going to click paragraph formatting. And I basically, there's a lot of different ways to do paragraph indication. There's some really creative ways to do paragraph indication, like altering the colors of the paragraph and doing kind of like hanging indents and all that. But honestly, typically the ones that we know the best, there are two. And if we go up here, you're going to see that this right here, first line left indent, this is a way that we are kind of familiar with. So I'm going to give it a 1/4 inch, and you can see that it's going to push over the beginning of each paragraph. And you're going to see right here, I forgot to take one of these guys away, so I'm gonna have to go fix that. I could do that, and as a matter of fact, since this is a kind of a classic article, that might be a good choice for paragraph indication, but I'm gonna take that away. The other thing they could do is this down here, space after, space before. Now I don't like space before because it pushes the text down from the top of the frame. I like space after, and you guys are all pretty familiar with this. It's going to move the space of the next paragraph down. You'll notice, by the way, that, and here's my one little guy that I forgot, so I'm going to go here, I'm going to hit delete and fix that right away. Now I'm going to go back here and do Command A again. So you're going to notice this is not the space of two returns. You don't want the next paragraph to be like really far away because it's part of this paragraph. So we don't want it to be super far away like that. We just want it to be a little bit far away, just so that you can see, okay, it's a new paragraph, but not like miles away because it makes bad spacing. Now I am gonna, I was gonna do space before, but I think I am gonna leave it like this. And while I'm here, I'm going to do a couple other things. Now I noticed coming down here that there's a couple of hyphens that are repeating themselves in a row. Okay, and when that happens, when a hyphen repeats itself in a row like this, we call this in typography, we call it pig bristles, and it's not optimum. You don't want that. Another thing that you really don't want is this kind of action happening right here. You don't want that either. So what I'm going to do is, since I don't want hyphenation, I'm going to go back to my type tool here, and I'm going to come over here in the typography formatting controls. I'm going to go way over here, and this is a little checkbox, and it's saying, yeah, go ahead and hyphenate. I'm going to take that away. I don't want it to hyphenate. And now it's not going to hyphenate. But the problem with that is when you do that is you tend to get a uneven rag on the right. And what you want in typography is you really want the rag on the right to be as elegant as possible. So this is something that you have to watch. Okay, so right now, I'm not going to worry about that too much. We're going to come back to it. I'm going to do Command 0 to get all the way back so I can see the whole thing. Okay, and I like the paragraph indication I'm using. That's fine. I unhyphenated everything. That's fine. So those are two things I'm looking at there. So I'm going to deselect everything, click on the pasteboard here, and I feel like there is an extra space here. So let me just take that away. Is there? Let's see. No. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's go back to formatting. Let's come back here to page 1, scroll here. Okay, before we do anything else, we're gonna make sure that our text is good. And here we can sort of see what I'm talking about. This sort of rag is pretty dramatic, and I don't know why this, oh, okay. So let's look at this. Okay. Okay. Is this a hyphen? No, it's an M dash. It's one of those little dashes where you have another thought like, oh, and then you make a dash. Okay. So let's look at the sentence. And with this clue, this purposeness in the back of your mind, it is possible to do the most unheard of thing. Unheard of. Ah, okay. So it is a dash. And I'm going to leave it because if I put this together, this sentence is going to have to come down here, and that's going to be this really big space here, right? So to keep this together, right, it would have to, now watch this, okay? So if I was going to move this down to the next line, if I hit return, that doesn't work because when I hit a return, that is a new paragraph, right? Yes, okay, so I'm going to take that away. So if I wanted to break this without making a new paragraph, I would come up here to type, and these are all these special characters, and right here we have a break. So I could say a forced line break would happen there, and it would drop it down to the next line. But this is what I'm talking about. You see this big space here? I don't like that. So I'm going to let that, I'm going to Command Z it, and I'm going to let that be because I don't want that. Now, I still don't really have a very good rag here. So what I can do to try a little bit to make this better is when I click on a text frame, I can do Command B like boy, and I can ask it to, if it's here, align fixed. Baseline, auto, footnotes, okay, balance, columns, okay, not here. So what I'm thinking of is over here in paragraph styles. Let's ignore that for a little bit. I'm going to let this just be a little bit raggy because we don't know how this text is going to wind up. And what I mean by that, for example, is when I'm going to do some more stuff now, it's going to change. Okay, let's come back here. I want to start this with a drop cap. So I'm going to put my text cursor anywhere in the first paragraph. It doesn't have to be here. It can be anywhere in the first paragraph, okay? And then I'm going to come up here to paragraph controls, and I'm going to go find where it says this little A+. Now, this is the amount of lines that it's this one. This is the amount of lines that you want the capital to drop down into. 3 is nice. And this is the amount of letters that you want it to drop down. Okay, so I think that when I get my title up here, I think this is going to be too much. So I'm going to go back to just the I, okay, and then I'm going to have the I drop down a little bit. And then just to make the beginning of this paragraph like look a little bit cooler, I'm going to go back to character formatting, and then I'm going to go towards the first, let's do the first 2 sentences. I'm going to highlight those 2. And then I'm going to go up here and pick small caps. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Hit W. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that for the time being. Hit W again. Okay. So I have a drop cap. I have some small caps in here. And the idea of small caps is that if I had this as capitals, it would be screaming. Like it would be like, wah! But see, small caps, it's much more elegant. So if I use small caps are the size of lowercase letters. And so they fit right into the text. And they don't look so, they don't stand out so much. Okay. So this is starting to look okay. Now, before this is done, though, I need to make sure that there are no orphans. This is an orphan, and this is an orphan. But before I do that, I want to make sure that when I put my pictures in, it's not going to change. That's one of the last things that I'm going to do. So this is where layout comes in. I mean, at this point, you could start this like this and move it down so that that's how the paragraph is starting, for example. And then to put a picture in, right, I could just do, I could either do Command D, and I can grab my crystal goblet here, and I can drag it in like this. But since, it's going to stay to the format of the picture, I might as well make the frame the exact size that I want it to be, and then put the picture in. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to put a frame in like this from bleed to bleed. And then I'm going to do Command D, and then I'm going to grab my glass here, right? And now it's really big, so I'm going to go to Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally. Okay, now, I think that this would look better if this sploosh was going this way, right? So with this image selected, up here, we have some controls. This is up and down, and this is, this way. So if I turn the image this way and deselect it and then hit W, then you can see that that automatically looks good. Now, I don't like that this is sort of touching the bottom like this down here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to click on the image, right? And I can see that I don't have any more image down here. But I think that's okay. I'm going to hit the arrows because I think that it's right. Now, if I wanted to get rid of this, I'd have to go ahead and put this in Photoshop, which I'm not going to do for this specific layout. So I think I am just going to leave it like that. And what I am going to do too is I'm going to take this, and I think it would be good if this text would curve around this glass. So I'm going to move this glass over a little bit so that it is over the text. And now it's covering this text. And I want this text to come forward. So I'm going to grab the text. I'm going to go to Object, Arrange. I'm going to bring it to the front. And I want this text to sort of wrap around the glass. Let me move the glass over a little bit more. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the image is clicked. I'm going to go up here to Window, and I'm going to open my text wrap panel. There's a couple different text wrap styles. This is no text wrap. This is wrap around the bounding box, so it's always going to wrap around the box. And this middle one right here is wrap around the object. And you can see that what happened here is that the brown part of the image got highlighted because it's looking at the image. The problem is that this part of the image back here is actually part of the image. It's not transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if InDesign can see the contrast here. So in order to make this work, I'm going to go up to Object, I'm going to go to Clipping Path, Options, and I'm going to choose the only thing that I have, which is Detect Edges. Okay, I'm going to go to Preview, and you see how it's trying to see the edges there? So that's working for me. So I'm going to click OK. And now, before anything else, okay, you see how the object, the image is still what's selected here? I'm going to deselect. I'm going to click on it again, and never leave your text this close to an image. So I'm going to come here back to the text wrap panel. You can see I have this image selected, and down here is how far the text pushes away from the side. One. Okay, that looks nice. Put this down here. Go Command minus. Okay. And the next thing I need to do is to lay out my title. Okay. And also what I can do too is I can move this around. And it will always just kind of, move with the text. So I could even hold Shift and Command down and make this much larger. With this. You do not have to have a text wrap in your layout. Okay. So I like that. I think I'm going to go with that. And then looks good. Okay, so now I'm going to hit W. And the last thing that we're going to do is lay out the title. And we're going to look for orphans, like this guy right here. So let's see. The Crystal Goblet by Beatrice Ward. I don't think we need her dates of birth and death here. And so I'm going to grab the Crystal Goblet and do Command X or cut. And I'm going to put the Crystal Goblet in its own frame. Then here is the sub header, or printing should be invisible. Command X, make a frame, put that guy right in there like that. And then by Beatrice Ward. So I'm using Universe over here. I'm going to make my life super easy and use Universe everywhere. So that means I'm going to click here, click the type tool. Okay. Now it should be the last thing I used. So if I go to the very top, Universe. Okay. There are 15 styles of Universe. This is the title. I'm going to use black, and I'm going to make it much larger. Okay, now if you make it too big, it's going to disappear out of the box. So be careful about that. The other thing I noticed is that I got a comma here. I don't want that. Okay. So here's my Crystal Goblet. I think I'm going to turn it. Okay, now you see this glass? I put a text wrap on it so that this could wrap around. But what's happening now is when I take my title and I put it over that image, it's text wrapping, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is with this frame, okay, I'm going to select this frame. I'm going to do Command B, like boy, beer, but ignore text wrap. Click on OK, and now this will be able to go ahead and be in here. Okay. And I haven't really thought about this very much, so, forgive me if it's a crappy layout. Beatrice Ward, okay, type tool. Again, let's just go Universe, fine. And then for this one, I think I'm going to do something, let's see, bold, condensed, oblique. universe black. Let's just do condensed oblique because I don't feel like looking for anything else. And let's go and make this a little bit small. Okay. Maybe just word. Again, same thing happening, right? Text wrapping. Okay. Command B, like beach. Ignore text wrap, click OK, and now I can put this here. Okay. The other thing is I need to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to the Front. I'm going to hit W. Okay, and now I can sort of see things a little bit better. And I can use the arrow keys to sort of move it around if I want to. Okay, last part of the lesson. You want to bring your layout into these pages too, but I think, it's just a matter of playing with it. So let's look for any orphans. This is an orphan. If you submit this to an art director, they'll literally have a cow. In order to make this, you can't have a single word here. So there's a lot of things you can do. One of the things you can do is to highlight all of the last part of a paragraph and go up here to character formatting, and you can mess with the tracking and add some tracking. But when you add more than 50, you start to really notice it, and you notice that nothing's happening here with it, so that's no good. Okay. The other thing that you can do is you can take this word and you can go up to type and you can insert a break character and you can say forced line break, and then now you have two words together. Again, this is going to make an odd looking shape here, so I'm gonna undo that. Command Z. Okay. And another thing that you can do is you can adjust the width of the column, but you see I cannot do that in this case, right? So what I am going to do is I'm going to go the other way. So I'm going to highlight more text than I had before. I'm going to highlight this whole guy. And then I'm going to try to look at 0 as far as the spacing. I'm going to look at -10. That's not going to work. 10, that's 10, 20, okay, 30. Because I got more letters, I highlighted more letters, it gave InDesign, more to do. Now, I know you guys have always been reading a book, and at some point you'll notice, like, this looks a little more spaced out. And the reason it is, it's not so bad that you're going to notice it horribly. It's going to take care of that. Let's see if there's another one. There's one last one here. Okay. So what I could do is I could try to move this down here, but I can tell already that this is a pretty long word and it's going to make a weird gap here. So I'm going to do the same exact thing I did with the other one. Is I'm just going to highlight a bunch of text here. 20, 30, 40. Okay, that's getting to be too much. It's going to be too stretched out. So let's try a little bit more. Okay, let's see. How about 5, 10, 25, 50. Ooh, this is hard. Okay. 20. Okay, so because this is kind of hard here, what we're going to have to do is make it work, which is kind of a pain in the butt, by taking a few of these words down. If I take and here, and if I go and say, let's do a, where's a break character? Let's do a forced line break there. It doesn't look, then this is a really big gap, right? So I'm going to undo that. And the other thing I could do here is to do something with the text. Maybe I could give it a drop cap over this way, or just have to, figure where it's not going to look so weird. Maybe the type, break character, first line break, here, type, break character, forced line break, and that did it. And it's not too awful. It is a bigger sin to leave these two together than it is to kind of break them apart. And hit W again. Okay, and for your layout, try and make these areas a little bit more interesting. And you could add some more images. You could try to do a little bit more of an interesting layout with these guys. Perhaps you want to move these down and have like another image here, or some color or a line or something like that. Okay. And then if by moving these down, if you run out of space, of course, you can thread this text to the next column. So you only have 4 pages to do this layout in. So that's going to be really important. So keep that in mind. It's a 4-page layout. You got to make everything fit and do a nice sort of layout on all 4 pages, not just the first page. When you are done, save it, Command S, export it, File, Export. Let's go ahead and put it in my layout. It's going to be a PDF for print. That's fine. Okay. Let's go to Save. And I want this to be spreads so that I can see them together. So I'm going to go to Spreads. Okay. And I'm going to click on Export. I'm going to minimize my InDesign. I'm losing my voice again. Double click this guy. Okay. And then here's my PDF. And this is what you will upload. I'm just going to open that. Make sure you have Acrobat installed on your computer. I'm going to do Command 0. That's going to show me everything. And then I can page forward. And you can see that it's where I have pages together. It will show me pages together. And that is how you do your assignment for week 4, typesetting. Okay, see you later, bye.